Okay, so here's this game I'm working on about grabbing and throwing enemies. There are a lot of different kinds of grabs you can do, or, you know, there would be eventually. You can grab anything. You grab bullets and throw them back, whatever. And a lot of people were asking me how I made this. So let me show you. So I have this player character controller. It's based on a kinematic body 2D controller, or what is called in Godot 4.0 is the character body 2D controller, as you can see there. And I have it as this sort of force-based, almost like a rigid body controller, where you, instead of modifying the velocity directly, you add forces and impulses and friction and gravity and so on. And it'll sort of indirectly, you'll indirectly act on it. So throwing, how throwing works. Basically, we start with, so I'm using a state machine. We start with this grab state. And that state, like many states, plays this animation, grab animation. What happens is I enable this hitbox that when it collides with an enemy, it will go into this function where it takes the enemy and it adds it as a child to the player or whatever is grabbing and puts it into this grabbed state. In the grabbed state, in this, nothing happens. You disable velocity, disable your hitboxes, and there's no update function, so it's not, there's no physics or anything that the grabbed object can do until it's released. The grabbed object is then aligned to this grab target node. And this grab target is just a position 2D that for every animation, its position is updated to match sort of on the sprite where I'm grabbing it. In this case, it's in the character's left hand when he's moving right. And for throws, it just sort of follows the animation of the character and then is released. So you could just add the object as a child of the grab target. I was having some rendering issues. I'm using this add-on Smoothing 2D by Lawn Jelly because my refresh rate and my physics tick rate are different. But if you don't care about that, then you can just add the grabbed object as a direct child of this grab target and be on your merry way. But I'm actually have a function for manually. This is called every process frame. It manually aligns the grabbed object to the grab target, and it'll change its flip. Oh yes, flip. I haven't talked about that yet. I think so. Basically, everything that's directionally relevant, like the sprite, some hitboxes and stuff, I have under this flip node. Because when you want your character to be moving to the left, you want to flip everything, but you cannot just scale the character controller directly, because that causes all sorts of physics nightmares with the collision shape and so on. So I'm actually flipping the flip node up here, and the state machine, which has a few directional things, and that's it. Everything else sort of stays the same scale, which lets you avoid all the nightmares. And as a plus, when you flip anything, when you have an animation player and its parent is scaled, the animation will scale with it. So all these animations will be flipped too, in all the positions that are modified and all the rotations and whatnot, they will be flipped to the left when you're facing to the left. So that's very nice. So yeah, that's why I have this set up the way it is. So where was I? Yes, grabbed objects. They'll follow that grab target node, including the Z index. You'll see it's behind the player, and now it's in front. Right there, you can sort of see that. And that's, it sort of adds that feeling of depth. I'm sort of twisting around the object and then throwing it. So let's see, what am I talking about? Okay, so the next thing after you've grabbed it is obviously releasing it and launching it. So let's start with the throw release. So I have this throw release function. It calls the setup release function, which is also called by the function to drop objects. And what this does is it puts that grabbed object back into the level instead of as a child to me, resets all of its velocity, all of its, just tries to sort of make sure nothing's left over from before it was grabbed. And then we take this direction and speed and we launch it using that. That's just a vector. So let's go to the launch and see. Oop, there it is. All this is doing is it's changing it into the launched state. The grabbed object is changing it into the launched state and applying an impulse to it, much like you would a rigid body. So this launched state, in my case, I just have it, I'm not going to get too into it, but it will start out spinning and then bounce and then go back to normal. So no matter how hard you throw them, you bounce once and then you bounce again, and on that second bounce, you sort of change back to the idle state. I can even throw them down. Oops. Bounces off the ground, and then when he hits the ground again, he goes back to normal and kills me. And that's basically it. I mean, I know I'm sort of speeding through this and running past a bunch of stuff, but a lot of this code is really specific to my implementation, and I just wanted to give out all the important bits, which will, if you implement this, you don't need to use the same code that I'm using. Just have this grab target node. When you grab them, however you're handling grabbing in the first place and actually hitting an opponent, you want to set them as a child to you, or at least align their position to this grab target, and then disable their processing in whatever way. You can even literally disable the physics processing. In fact, I was doing that prior to having a dedicated grabbed state, which just doesn't, when you're grabbed, you don't do anything. It has a few things like disabling the hitboxes. But you could just disable the processing if your game is simple and you don't need to have a bunch of extra checks. And then using the animation player, you just animate this grabbed object and then throw it. And that's really it. I mean, it's really simple when you get down to it. You can ignore the ridiculous amount of code I've written for this, because you don't need to do that. And I'm not going to show you like a simple code version because I guess I'm lazy. But with these fundamentals, you can, figure it out. But yeah, so you grab it, you hold it for a while. In fact, with the items, when you grab them, this holdable flag means you'll just go back to the idle state, and then they'll be attached to your body. And then when you hit grab again, you'll go into their unique throw state. So let's see, I'll pick up an item, grab it, I'm just holding it. And you can see in the states up on the top left, my previous states, like I'm just going through my normal states. There's no special like grab and run or grab and stand there, grab and fall. It just sort of animates this grabbed object on top of you, which is really convenient. Though it does, that's sort of, the animation's broken. But yeah, I mean, basically, that's all this is. Grab, hold, and release. Oh, have I shown the release function? Yeah, I have. Yeah, so that's it. Hopefully this helps you figure out how to implement grabbing and throwing, which I think is one of the most satisfying things to do in games. Because I mean, consider that most of what we do with our hands is grabbing and not like punching or whatever, swinging a sword. It feels more real to me to grab something.